with COVID and it being a time trial start, I'm not sure how to approach the race. I'm sure some packs will form, but I'm not sure if I feel comfortable with pack riding at this point. From a COVID standpoint, not group riding skills, he mentions. Which means it may end up being a 120-mile solo TT. Any tips for mentally preparing for that? He says, I've done some centuries as group rides, but my longest solo ride was around 60 miles. So what tips or pointers do you have for a really long solo day in the saddle? And actually, this is a good point because in our minds, we watch bike racing and we see a battle and we anticipate that that's what it'll be. But the majority of us, when we get into a race situation, these long races, you're just riding by yourself. Like, and when you pass people, you're probably not, so you shouldn't ride with them just because of the fact that you're probably at different levels at that point in the race. That's just kind of how it goes. So it probably is going to be a somewhat solo affair, you know?
Amber, at DK, how much time did you spend alone in that mass start race with 2,000 people?
A lot. It's a 200-mile race and it kind of gets broken up into 50-mile chunks because of the sag stops. And there was one 50-mile section. I actually found one rider. We were very, very well matched in terms of how we were pacing and the pace we wanted to go. And we rode the whole 50 miles together. But I think that's pretty rare. And most of the rest of the time, honestly, you're in and out of groups and you're very, very much in your own head most of the day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I want to, the reason that we teed this one up for Amber, because I was like, I don't know many people that are, especially on this podcast, that have had a lot of time doing a lot of very long rides, and you're probably the best one suited for this, Amber, being a pro cyclist for so long. How do you manage things with these long rides?
There's a variety of aspects that you need to kind of consider when you're thinking about preparing yourself for something like this. So I think you're making a really good assumption that you're going to be spending a lot of time on your own in this race. So I would work off from that assumption. And then if you get lucky and you find somebody who is, wants to ride the same pace and pace the same way that you do, all the better. But then that'll just sort of be the gravy. You want to make sure that you're covering your bases and making sure that you're going to be in a good spot if you need to do most of the ride yourself. So the first and biggest thing I would say with this is train yourself to be really great company for yourself. And that sounds kind of funny, but wherever you go, you're bringing your mind and your mindset with you. And so ask yourself is your head a nice place to be? So when you're doing even shorter workouts and you're getting into a really uncomfortable spot or you're really struggling, is your head still a nice place to be? And can you make it a nicer place to be? So if you were riding with a friend who was struggling in the way that you're struggling, what would you say to your friend? Are you going to be as nice to yourself as you would be to that friend? This is, for a lot of us, it's a lot. It's not that easy. It's not that easy. I know I'm really, really hard on myself, and it's difficult actually to even catch myself when I start getting down on myself. So that's the first step, is to start noticing when your mindset is shifting from being really supportive of yourself and what you're doing to being derogatory or, oh, you idiot, you're so weak. Why can't you hang into this VO2 max effort? You don't want that to be what's going through your head when you're 170 miles into a race. Like, that's just, so this is something that you can start working on now. And the first step is to just catch yourself when you start getting negative, notice it, laugh about it. Don't add another layer of judgment. Like, oh, stupid. Now you're being stupid about being stupid. Don't add a layer. Just,
get out of my head, Amber. Were you in my workout last night?
I mean, we all do this, right? It's just, it's hard not to. So notice when it's happening, just kind of, just notice it. Just, oh, there I go again. Oh boy, here we go. Here comes that inner critic. And even sometimes giving your inner critic a funny name, like a really goofy name, can be kind of nice because it sort of takes the power away from it. Like, make it into a cartoon character that you picture, right? When that voice comes in your head, and give it some silly name. So it's just like, oh yeah, there's that monster under my bed coming back. And then as you start to get aware of it, then you can start shifting what you're saying to yourself. And these are things that you can do in really short rides. And this kind of training, it takes a lot of focus. And that's another thing that you need to think about for a long ride like this, is there are going to be times in the race where you really need to be focused. And then just like physical effort, when you're making that mental effort to focus and be intentional with something, you need to have some recovery too. So this is, again, it's a good thing to work on in shorter workouts because you can do it in shorter bursts and it's not as difficult. And then just keep in mind on the day that you're going to need to have times where you allow yourself to be unfocused. So you can kind of let your brain unwind a little bit so that when you get to a crux part of the race, or you are struggling with negative self-talk, you can really turn it on and be effortful in the mental space, the mental side of things. So that kind of training has huge benefits across the board. It's not just for long rides, but it's especially important when you're by yourself for long miles.
One thought with this too, Amber, is my 6-minute inner critic is very my VO2, like last night I was doing 6 5-minute intervals, VO2 intervals at like 112%. Those things cook you, right? And my inner critic for my long VO2 inner critic is very different from my long day inner critic, right? And I feel like it's a much nicer inner critic on when things are less intense. So that's a good point too. This is probably a good opportunity. It sets the scene a little better to work on that relationship that you have when the intensity is lower and you have more time to spend time and figure that relationship out. Long rides are probably great for that, you know?
Yeah. So it's definitely, I would start there. That would be sort of the foundational thing I would do. And then of course you want to make a plan for a pacing plan for the day. So look at the course, do your homework. You obviously already have looked at the total elevation gain, but break it down even further. So break up the route into key sections or landmarks. Where are the crux climbs? How long are they? How far apart are they? And kind of have in mind where you're really going to want to put in a lot of effort. And then where are some places where you can build in some recovery into that pacing strategy. So really come up with a pacing strategy that's specific to the course, that's specific to your strengths, to your training plan, how you're preparing, and then stick with it on the day. I mean, it's really easy to have this plan and get all prepared, and then you get out there and you just get real excited, or you really don't want that person to pass you, or you really want to hang into that one group. Don't let external factors distract you from your own plan. Go with your plan. And then, especially for the first half of the race, and then in the last half or the last quarter of the race, if you are really feeling way better than you anticipated, then maybe you can allow yourself to go a little bit harder than your pace, but really stay conservative and stick to your plan as much as you can, especially early on, because these long days, a lot can change over the course of the day. So make a plan and stick to it in terms of pacing. And then the same thing goes for nutrition, and this would be related to your pacing plan. So train yourself, two things. One is make the plan. And again, this can go along with, okay, if you know where there's going to be a huge climbing section, you're going to want to make sure that you're fueling up way ahead of that you're staying on top of your hydration. If you need to set alarms on your computers to remind you, whatever it is that you need to do to make sure that you're consistently hydrating and taking on fuel, and pacing and doing that in a way that's going to be effective, right? There's the pacing component of this that's making sure you're fueled for key sections of the course, but there's also like the practical and logistical side of it. So you may not want to be pulling a gel out of your pocket on a really rough section. So finding sections where it looks like, okay, this might be a good place to give my brain a break, take a beat, recover a little bit, get some food, identify where those places on the course are, and make sure that you have a way of identifying them for yourself, whether that's with an alarm or a stem tape or something, but have a plan and really stick to it. Because a little falling off that fueling wagon early in the race can cause some big problems down the road.
And what that involves, and this is a super important part, Chad and I were actually talking about this before the podcast, what that involves is you eating, even if you don't necessarily feel like it, instead of just saying, oh, I feel like a gel right now, so I'll have one. Because if you do that and you just go by feel, your body will trick you and you will find yourself in a situation where you are underfueled. Like you really do. So just know that when you stick to that plan, that is going to involve you doing things and you don't necessarily feel like doing them, but it's for your best interest. Definitely.
Yeah. And part of that in the training too is to learn how to recognize cues. So one thing I've noticed over the years is, and when I was doing my week of mountain biking, this was definitely happening, where I'd notice I'd just start to get really frustrated. And that's where my inner critic would just light me up. And I've noticed now, I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I haven't eaten in a while. And actually, when your mind takes a turn for the negative, you would be surprised at how often that correlates with being underfueled. So just taking on a little bit of extra carbohydrate in those moments, it can boost your mood as well as your performance. And so learning to recognize cues other than hunger, that might indicate that you're underfueled or that you need to hydrate a little bit better can be really, really important. And frustration, self-doubt, a raging inner critic, all of those things can actually be part of feeling underfueled. So learning to recognize those cues for yourself and training yourself to recognize those in the training before the day so that you have that awareness on the day.
So Amber, would you say it's safe to put that in terms of learning to eat before hunger, eat ahead of hunger? Because that is easily my biggest limiter when it comes to races, is trying to stay on top of the food. And I too often, and I can't imagine I'm alone in this, wait until I'm hungry or wait until I want food. It's not planned. I'm fading a bit, so I'm going to have a gel, and which typically is too little too late.
Yeah, definitely. And if you are sticking to your nutrition plan and you find yourself maybe feeling a little bit underfueled or feeling this self-doubt and this negativity, maybe you just need a little bit more. So just don't be shy about it. Try to stay ahead on the calorie intake as much as you can and stay ahead on the hydration as much as you can. And then, pay attention to those cues, because your body might need something a little bit different on the day than you thought it did. And just, you're better off overfueling than underfueling on a race day. That's for sure.
Yeah.
What Chad just said about waiting until you're hungry to eat, a triathlete has never experienced that. When you're like, my triathlon days, it was always, put into your head, have a timer, set it up, keep ahead, because as you get the half and full Ironman, if you waited till you were hungry, your race is over, or it's going to get not over, but you're no longer racing for your PR. And it is now going to be so hard because you can't catch up. It's about like a 120-mile ride. It's really hard to catch up. Your gut can't absorb it that fast. You can't just down 400 grams of carbs in an hour and absorb it and be like, oh, I made up for the last 4 hours, which is tough. Chad, you had something to say here. Is this you or this Jonathan?
In terms of eating?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like I just said, this is probably my biggest limiter is nailing my nutrition during a race. I have no problem with it during workouts and the rest of my life. But when it comes to racing, I just cast aside everything that made sense during a workout for some reason. So one of the things I do on the road, and especially with longer events, is give myself food incentives. When all you have are gels and manufactured foods in your pockets, the call or the urge, I guess, to eat them isn't that high. So that's, I think, why I end up waiting for hunger. So if I put things in there that I want to eat, and I got a couple points on this matter, no problem. One of them is I've discovered, I think they sent them to us a while back, but some of those, I think it's called Maple Tap.
Endurance Tap.
And it's just maple syrup.
Yeah.
Endurance Tap, that's it.
Endurance Tap.
They're little silver pouches of maple syrup, and you can get salted ones, but they're really nice in that they have a little screw cap on them. So not that you'd want to eat half of one, they're tiny, so you're going to eat the whole thing, but you can cap it again and you don't get sticky pockets. But they're delicious. So I actually look forward to it. It's actually an incentive. I want to eat them because they taste good regardless of whether or not I'm hungry. And when it comes to Cape Epic, I know that's going to work for as long as it works, but there will come a point, and it did the other day when we did a very long mountain bike ride with Jonathan and a buddy, that we stopped and we had lunch. And it took all of, I don't think we stopped for 15 minutes. So Pete and I are kicking around the idea of actually making, full-on sandwiches, having a lunch stop. You laugh now, but you might not be laughing on days 6, 7, and 8 when we're actually powering along with our 10-minute lunch breaks and still finishing in reasonably good times.
That's a really good point. And one of my points on here is just especially if you end up having a close call on a day like this, actually taking time to allow yourself to process that, stopping for even 5 minutes, 10 minutes can save you a lot of time down the road in those cases. Yeah. So I'm totally behind you on that one. I think that's probably a good idea.
Awesome. I think it's a great idea. I think both teams, your team should stop for lunch break and have sandwiches. And Sophia and I will do 100 grams of carbs per hour and pace correctly, and we'll see who's faster.
We'll see who has more fun.
Winning is fun.
Yeah,
that's true.
Not above all else.
Having a capacitive effort is fun, knowing you went as fast as you can.
Sure.
I'm not going to have fun at Cape Epic just dawdling around and doing a tail whip if I could do a tail whip.
I think Pete mentioned this in the YouTube video. He said there are other measures of success, right? And that's just the thing, the different outcomes. And I think it's clear that Team Thunder and Honey have a different measure of success that they're reaching for.
Objectives have changed.
Flavors of fun.
Amber, I wanted to.
They didn't change. They just solidified.
Yeah, there we go. I wanted to talk on or bring up a point on here where, because of the ebbs and flows of these long rides, you can really get yourself into like a pretty negative headspace on these long rides. How do you pull yourself out of it? Like, what are tips there?
It's not easy, but I think really just trying to keep a level head no matter what happens. One of the things that I always tell myself, and it's absolutely true, is no matter how you feel, it will pass. So if you feel amazing, it's going to pass. And if you feel terrible, it's going to pass. And you're just going to go through these ups and downs, especially on a really big, long day like that. Like, you'll be super, super uncomfortable and you'll just think there's no way that I can keep going. And if you keep pedaling, it could be 30 seconds later, it could be 10 minutes later, maybe half hour later, and you're going to feel amazing. It's very weird, but I promise you, like, it does happen. And some of it is mindset, some of it's physiological, but just remember that no matter how you feel, it will pass, and just try to keep a level head no matter what happens. And these really, really long races, on one hand, there's more opportunity for bad luck and setbacks, but on the other hand, there's more buffer for bad luck and setbacks. So if you get a flat tire, if something happens, don't give up, because there's so much ground over which you can gain that time back if you need to. You really don't need to stress about it. So it's keeping a level head is really important. When I used to get nervous before bike races, and this is like before a road race, which would only be 3 or 4 hours, so not one of these huge mega days, but pretty long race, I'd start to get real nervous. And my husband David, he used to be a downhill ski racer, and his event was slalom. So in slalom, I mean, 1/100 of a second can make the difference in a race, and the races are literally seconds long. He would just laugh and he'd be like, "What are you worried about? You've got 3 hours to figure it out." So just keep that in mind. Like, you have time. So if you're feeling bad and you need to stop and you need to catch your breath and just eat something, it's okay. Know that that might actually shore you up enough to make up that time down the road. But yeah, just be ready to embrace those ups and downs, and don't let the downs get you down, and don't put too much stock in the ups. Just be ready for anything.
And so another way to say it too is, like, in a long race, everyone's going to feel bad at one point. The difference is how you react to it.
Yes, exactly.
Some people have a positive mindset like Amber, and some people, it just gets worse and worse and actually feeds into the bad performance.
And so much of that is having a plan coming in. Because even if you have a plan and that plan is well executed and everything else, that doesn't mean that you aren't going to feel bad. You may very well still feel bad, but if you stick to that plan is your insurance against, or at least against, staying in that bad space, right? It's what'll pull you out. Because probably one of the worst things you can do when you feel bad is to be like, I'm going to stop eating. I'm going to stop drinking. I'm going to stop sticking to my very logically and well thought out plan that took months to develop. And instead, I'm just going to fly by the seat of the pants in my emotional state right now. That's probably the worst thing to do. Yet it is the default response in many cases, because we feel like everything is different than what we anticipated. But man, just remember, your plan is there to pull you out of tricky situations. It isn't there to be a perfect framework that you have to adhere to. It's there to be able to pull you through the event, through ups and downs.
Right. And visualizing specific things that can go wrong, like sitting down and visualizing getting a flat, and in your visualization, keeping a positive monologue going in your head. Like, what are the things that you're going to say to yourself if you flat? What are the things you're going to say to yourself if you're really feeling terrible? And we've all had those days where we feel terrible. So let's be honest, any one of us could sit down and put ourselves right back in that space and imagine that. And then, to Jonathan's point, have a plan. What are you going to say to yourself when you're feeling like that? What are you going to say to yourself when something goes wrong? And then having those things in mind, it'll make it so much easier in the moment, because you'd be like, oh yeah, I visualized this. This is how I'm going to handle this. And I'm just going to stay present in the moment, handle it, and keep going.
The Amber said too that it always passes. For Leadville, it took 30 days for me to feel better. So
it did pass. It did pass.
I passed. This was not one of those things where it got better as the race course got, or the finish line got closer. It got worse and worse and worse, and then it was bad for like an hour afterwards. And then I guess it was a little bit better, but
what was the key thing that dropped off, like for you in that race?
Hydration and nutrition.
Yep, exactly. Right. That's it. So,
okay. So then a tip, what Amber said, is like looking ahead to see how long the climbs are, time-based. I always ask people like, oh, how long is the climb? And they always are like 2K. And I'm like, that could mean so many different speeds based on the climb. Like, never tell me the distance. I want to know how long it takes you to do it. And a tip on this is, in your local area, look about what percentage like you're off from the KOM. And the more like high level riders, the better. And let's say I'm 20% off time wise. I then look at the rides that I'm doing. And as long as there's not a name up there that I know that's like a real legit pro, I look and say, okay, what's their time? And I add 20%. Then I get a rough idea. And I know, is it a 20-minute climb? Is it a 40-minute climb? And that gives me an idea for pacing and stuff. It's not completely accurate. And in a race situation and stuff, it's different, and wind and all that. But it is nice to know into a climb that, like, I just looked at one the other day, I forget what it was, but it was like an hour and 15 minutes. So that gives me a good expectation about how I'm going to pace that thing versus if it was 20 minutes. And it might take me an hour and 30 minutes or 50 minutes, but it's still, the pacing is going to be pretty similar between those two. Yeah. Last question I have. So Amber, you had a week of mountain biking. How's it all going? It's going to take more than a week. Have you mountain biked again?
I have been riding my mountain bike. Yes, I have.
Do you put it on Strava?
No, I don't have a computer on it. So that's, and part of that is just for me mentally right now.
Put it in your pocket. Okay. Yeah. You don't want to share.
Well, right now, because I'm still at the early stages of the skill building, like I don't want to be comparing myself at this stage. I'll get there.
I want to though.
Now, I'm in my own head.
I want to know if I should freak out or not. Like, if I should just go to North Star every day.
Just freak out.
That's okay. You should totally freak out.
Yeah.
Okay,
you don't need a computer for that.
I operate well at like a certain level of anxiety all the time in my life. It's a driving force. If you like this video, make sure you give us a thumbs up.
If you didn't like this video, you can give it a thumbs down, but let us know what you would have done differently in the comments below.
If you want to see more of these videos, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you want to become a faster cyclist, check out TrainerRoad.com.
Do it.